Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. Familia! Happy post Thanksgiving. Happy post Black Friday. Happy post Ohio State, Michigan. Go Blue. And also post Mexico, Argentina. El Tri. Lo sentimos mucho, but I know you're going to come back strong. You're going to come back strong in the next one. Familia, you know what? Doing this one a little bit later, with the holiday, things got a little wonky this week, but still going to be able to break down all of the Sunday action and also the Monday Night Football action to help you get ready for your fantasy football pennant races, those races to get to the fantasy football playoffs. Familia, please make sure you are going to YouTube and giving us a like and subscribe. Familia, we really love it. It really helps us in the algorithm, help us keep growing. Also, please make sure when you go to fantasypoints.com, use the promo code 22familia10, get you 10% off the already reduced price. That's 25% off. You get some of the best fantasy minds: John Hanson, Graham Barfield, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, Wes Huber, Tom Brawley. I mean, some of the best minds out there, and you get and they're going to help you win your fantasy football leagues because you just get so much great content out of there and some great data that's just coming out all the time to help you win. So here we are. It's week 12. This is part 2 of our series. So we did the Thanksgiving Day. I did the Thanksgiving Day edition on Wednesday. So I'm doing this one on the eve of the game. So I got a little more information on the different on injuries, who's in, who's out. That's why we're doing Adentro y Afuera. So Familia, we're making sure that we're getting you ready, and we're going to start off in Tennessee. We're going to it's a rematch already of that big game in the playoffs where Joe Shiesty, he got hit so many times, but he just kept getting back up, and they won. And now this was a game where Derrick Henry was just returning from the foot injury that took him out basically the second half of last season. He's healthy. He's just ready to rock. So we're going to start off with a little the team that's traveling on this one, and it is the Bengals. So the Bengals are 6-4. They're 3-point favorites at 7-3 Tennessee. The cloudy, 54 degrees. There may be some wind conditions. I've seen a report that there could be some big wind gusts, which is going to affect the passing game. But I'm going to start with Joe Shiesty himself, Joe Burrow. Is Jamar Chase going to play? The reports that are coming out today do not look very promising. I'm telling you, it's looking like he's doubtful. This one's going to be a very interesting game because when it comes to the Tennessee Titans, thou shalt not run. So you got to beat them through the air. Samaje Perine is going to be replacing Joe Mixon, who is out with a concussion. These Titans are allowing only 44.4 rushing yards per game since week 7. Any per game averages that we talk about are since week 7, to give us a little bit of recent information. Burrow himself, he has been just a monster of late. 3 of his last 5 games, he's gone over 300 yards. His last week at Pittsburgh, 355, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Titans, they've given up 446 to Mahomes, 276 to Russell Wilson, and 227 and 2 touchdowns to Aaron Rodgers. This is in the last 3 weeks. You could beat the Titans through the air. They do get some pressure. They do have a great line when it comes to their DBs. They can be beaten a little bit, but that front line is ferocious. Sometimes they get home. They got 13 pressures last week, 1 sack and 2 hits against the Packers. They're number 23 against fantasy quarterbacks, allowing 270.8 passing yards per game. I just read an article in The Athletic about the improvement in the O-line with especially the interior of the offensive line with the Bengals. I'm going out and throw with Joe Shiesty. Let's go to the other side. Derrick Henry. Are you going to pay $8,300 in DraftKings for Derrick Henry? He's one of the top running backs of the week. Familia. I think I'm going to have a lineup with Derrick Henry paying up for him because listen, the Titans, they've been hot. They are no longer just a run-centric team. Okay, Ryan Tannehill the last 2 weeks has passed a little bit more, so that the teams that are facing the Titans, they are not just selling out to stop the run. He's the number 3, as I mentioned, he's the number 3 running back on this slate. He has not had anything less than 17 rushing attempts since week 2. Now, these are the running backs who have beaten up the Bengals of late. Najee Harris went for 90 yards against them. Nick Chubb went for 101 yards against them in 2 of the last 3 games. They are number 27 against the running back. With Treylon Burks now something of a threat, I'm telling you, Familia, you can't just sell out to stop the run. You have to respect the pass with these guys. Derrick Henry, adentro. So we talked about running back takeovers a little bit on this, in the title of this show. We've got a running back takeover happening in for Tampa, and it's going to be happening in Cleveland. Now, this game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 5-5 at Cleveland 3-7. You got Tampa Bay 3.5-point favorites, road favorites, Familia. 42.5 point over under. Rain is in the forecast, Familia. Mother Nature has said that she wants it to pour on this game, and you know what? It's going to make this one muddy. And like I said, I love to say this when it comes to a rain game or running game, it's 1977 all over again. Rachaad White, he's going to be running unopposed, Familia. Leonard Fournette this afternoon got ruled out. So these are the snap. This is how the snaps were last week. 48 for Rachaad White, 22 for Leonard Fournette. In that game last time in Germany, 22 carries, 105 yards, 0 touchdowns for Rachaad White. He had no targets. Maybe that's going to change with no playoff Lenny. When it comes to the Browns, Familia. Oh, I'm telling you. Let me see. We got a question in the chat. I'm going to get to it in just a minute. Okay. When it comes to the Browns, they are number 31 against the running back, giving up 155.7 scrimmage yards to the position. Familia, you are going to run all over them. I'm looking. Cook and Singletary against these Browns combined for 172 rushing yards alone. In week 10, Jeff Wilson Jr., who we will talk about a little bit later, went for 119 yards. Rachaad White is one of the biggest bargains in DraftKings this week. 5,100. Adentro. On the Browns side, did I tell you it was raining? Nick Chubb, baby. Nick Chubb all the way. This is strength versus strength, because you know what? When it comes to the running game, the Buccaneers are rough. They are tough. I mean, it's the Bucs, they are number 7 against running backs. Averaging 104 rushing yards, just 1 rushing TD allowed since week 7. They, I mean, you look at this one, 5 of the last 10 games for Nick Chubb, he's over 100 yards. He got bottled up last week for 19 yards, 14 carries, 19 yards. Ken Walker, 10 carries, 17 yards. I think this one's, it's going to be a grinder game. I don't think he gets to 100 yards, but I could see him getting 20 carries for about 80 to 85 yards and a touchdown. So that qualifies as an Adentro in here. All right. So we got a question in the chat right now. We got Trey. Okay. Full PPR. Bench 1 between Travis Etienne, Jeff Wilson, or Rachaad White. Wow. Geez. I'm looking at these guys. You're not sitting Wilson. You're not sitting White. I think it's. I hate to say it. I think it's Etienne. He's got a tough matchup, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. White, you can't sit him because he, his counterpart Leonard Fournette is out, as I just mentioned. Jeff Wilson Jr. It's looking like Raheem Mostert is very, very doubtful in this game. So when he's hurt, that he's just not going to play. I'm looking at him. I don't see it. I don't see much of an option. They're going up against the Houston Texans. Trey, you got to start. You got to start Jeff Wilson. And if you're playing DraftKings, you got to play this one. CMC. Hopefully he gets home, because man, so many weapons there in San Francisco. So good luck. Buena suerte. All right. So let's go down. We were just talking about Miami. Let's go to the Texans a little bit. Dameon Pierce. Oh, well, first off, It's the Houston Texans are 1-8-1 at Miami, 7-3. Miami is 13.5-point favorites, one of the largest favorites on the week. 47-point over under. It's going to be 83 humid. It's going to be fairly clear. One of the nice weather games. Remember, we're starting to get weather. Keep an eye on that when it comes to your quarterbacks and your kickers. Keep an eye on that for your kickers. Always get a dome kicker, unless it's Justin Tucker or Harrison Butker. But anyway, I digress a little bit. Texans, Dameon Pierce. He's really right now with the changeover to Kyle Allen. I don't think I trust Nico Collins or Brandon Cooks right now in my starting lineup until I see that Kyle Allen is throwing. He may have to throw a lot in this game, but I just, the accuracy issues aren't all that great. With Pierce, he put up his first clunker of the season last week, 17 total yards. And this is, he's been the main man since week 2. Are you nervous about playing him, Familia? The Miami Dolphins are number 8 against the running back, allowing 67.2 rushing yards per game. But you know what? They haven't been that formidable, big, scary front line. It's really that teams have had to abandon the running game because this is such a high-powered offense that they're going to score, and you got to throw to keep up. So I really think it's, they're not the greatest. They're not the Tennessee Titans against the run. So when it comes to Dameon Pierce, I think if he gets taken out of this game, it is going to be because of game script. I think he's going to get, 60 to 75 yards. He's going to have to grind out some yards, but, there is going to become a point where Allen is going to have to throw, and they're going to take the ball out of his hands. Hopefully they drop down some passes to him. Kyle Allen, when he had Christian McCaffrey, threw the ball to him a lot. So I'm really hoping that happens in here, because really that's the only way I'm Adentro on him. I'm starting him. I've got him on the Scott Fish Bowl. I've got him, Eckler, and Saquon. I'm starting him with a lot of confidence. Another guy, Jeff Wilson Jr. He's the RB14 in DraftKings with 5,900 salary. Mostert is doubtful, as I mentioned. Could he get all the touches? He had 19 of 27 rushing attempts against the Browns, with Mostert getting 8. Houston is allowing 173.6 rushing yards. That is not a typo. That's number 32 against the league, Familia. Gibson and Robinson, they had 129 combined rushing yards. You had Saquon in week 10 with 152 yards. I could see this game where the Dolphins get up by 2 or 3 touchdowns very early, and then all of a sudden they just give it to Wilson, salt it away. Remember, Mike McDaniel is a running game coach. He's from that Shanahan tree that likes to run the ball. So 5,900, I got to line up with him in there. So let's go to Chi-Town. Not Chi-Town. We're going to Chicago, 3-8, at New York, going to the Meadowlands, at the Jets, 6-4. The Jets are 6-point favorites. They've had a little change. We're going to talk about that in a second. Some very low over under 38.5 with a 49-degree in the forecast. It's overcast and not expected any rain. On the Bears side, is Justin Fields going to play? Let me tell you, if it's my money and I'm looking at my franchise, I'm sitting the man. You know what? That young man is the future. I don't want to risk any further injury that's going to make. I want him healthy. I want that shoulder healthy so that it does. I don't want to have any surgeries for him. So that, to me, I'm looking at David Montgomery for this week, because he is the lead caballo, the bell cow. But he had a 20-6 touch advantage over Treston Ebner last week. He was on the field for 28 of 35 rushing snaps. But these Jets, they are not to be trifled with when it comes to the running game. They're just fantastic on defense. Increíble, these Jets are on defense. They're number 13 against the running back, 79.6 rushing yards allowed per game. I'm telling you that teams are just not able to run against them. And I think it's going to be, you have someone like Raheem Mostert in week 5. He's the only guy who's gone over 100 yards against these Jets. Now, Ramondre Stevenson did have 56 receiving yards against them last week, but you know what? I think what's going to happen, I think they're going to end up with a backup quarterback, Trevor Siemian. And it's not going to be pretty, Familia. I think it's going to be a rough one. It's going to be a rough one for David Montgomery. I'm afuera on him. On the Jets side, We got to change. Got to change. Mike White is the Miguel Blanco, as I want to call him sometimes. He is now the starting quarterback. They benched Zach Wilson. And what's going to happen? Is he going to look for a man named Michael Carter, their running back? You know what? Let's look at last year real quick. Mike White, he had in week 8, he threw 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 14 targets went to Michael Carter in that game. Now, he had an ADOT of just 4.2 in that game. So, he was definitely checking down. Michael Carter is going to be a sneaky play this week because, he's running the routes. He ran 11 routes. James Robinson, the other running back for the Jets, ran 0. The rushing attempts were dead even at 8-8. But when you look at the Bears, they're number 24 against the running back. They're allowing 124.4 scrimmage yards to the running back. The Falcons had 111 scrimmage yards alone. Combined rushing yards against these Bears last week. Michael Carter for an RB2 or a flex play. Hey, I got him in my lineup. I mean, I play him adentro. All right, let's go to Washington. Let's go to nation's capital, Washington, 6-5. The resurgent Commanders. They are hosting the Atlanta Falcons, 5-6. They've lost Kyle Pitts. This is going to be a game that's going to be another rain game. You got Washington, 4.5-point favorites at 40.5 over under. So it's a low number. When it comes to the Falcons, they're, you know what, it just hasn't been pretty with what's coming out from Marcus Mariota. Now, with Kyle Pitts out, is Drake London going to see more targets? He ran 22 routes last week, but he just saw 3 targets. Caught 1 for a touchdown and 2 yards. I'm telling you, rain's going to play a part in this game. When they played in the rain against the Carolina Panthers, they really just concentrated on running the ball. And they need to, because you know what? This Washington defensive front is, even though Chase Young is not expected to play in this game, it's better than 50-50 chance that he doesn't play in this game. This Washington defensive front is getting pressure on the quarterback. They got 15 pressures on 29 dropbacks last week. They didn't have any hits, any sacks, but they did get 5 hits. Justin Jefferson is the only wide receiver to go over 100 yards against them since Devontae Smith did it in week 3. You got the rain, you got the big-time pass rush. Marcus Mariota is not going to have time. I'm afuera. This team is allowing only 200.2 passing yards per game, so afuera. On the Commanders side, Antonio Gibson. I'm adentro on him. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm adentro on him. He is, even though I've drafted more Brian Robinson, I just look at Gibson, Familia. This is a running back takeover, okay? Last week he had 103 combined yards. His snaps were 24-16 over Brian Robinson. Running the ball is going to be very important. Now, the one caveat about this is he does have ball security issues. He does fumble a little bit. So is Gibson going to hold on to the ball? Because otherwise, you know what? When it comes to the Falcons, they're number 25 against the running back, giving up 142.4 scrimmage yards to the position. Deonta Foreman himself went in 2 games combined for 248 rushing yards. I then throw on Antonio Gibson, All right, let's go over to Carolina. Carolina on my mind. Denver 3-7 at Carolina 3-8. Not going to spend a lot of time on this game, Familia, because this one's going to be ugly. It's going to be in the rain. It's going to be in the high 50s. Denver is 2-point favorites, and it's all because of the fact that, even with as bad a season as Russell Wilson is having, he's still the better quarterback in this one. And he's got a running back, Latavius Murray, who is running pretty much unopposed, okay? I know they've got Marlon Mack, but Latavius Murray, you got no Melvin Gordon, you've got no Chase Edmonds to get, and he got 21 touches last week, carried the ball 17 times, 49 yards, 1 touchdown, con permiso on that one. He played 17 of 27 rushing snaps. These Carolina Panthers, They've got a good pass rush. They've got they've got a couple of good DBs, started with J.C. Horn, but you know what? They're not very good against the running game. Number 23 against running backs, 135.6 scrimmage yards, 6 total TDs. They gave up 80 total rushing yards last week to the Ravens, to their running backs, and they had that monster game that Joe Mixon had, 153 and 4 touchdowns. This is a game where Murray could just, could be a very, very vital part of this game, especially in the rain. If Russ has a tough time throwing, get Murray in that lineup. He's a cheap play on DraftKings as well. I'm looking at him right now, and he is. Let me see, where is that number on the stats? 5,500 Familia. 50, oh, wait a second. No, I'm sorry. Not Latavius Murray. I was looking at the next guy. Latavius Murray is 5,000 even. So he's pretty cheap. Let's go to the Panthers side. Deontay Foreman, he's 5,500 in DraftKings pricing. How's Sam Darnold going to do for them? How's him starting going to affect him? Now, this is a man, Deontay Foreman, in 2 victories and 1 loss that was by 3 points. He went over 100 yards in those games. This game is projected to be low scoring, and it's going to be a tight ball game. I'm looking at Foreman to get a lot, and in the rain, I'm looking at him to get a lot of yards on this one. Denver is giving up 142.7 scrimmage yards per game. Josh Jacobs last week, 24 carries, 109 yards. Derrick Henry, they did hold him to 53 yards, but at that point, there was no passing threat in that game. So they could just sell out to stop the run. Travis Etienne, 156 yards, 1 touchdown. They're very good against the pass, number 9, giving up only 204.5 passing yards. But again, Denver, they're giving up the yardage right now. So, oh my goodness. Oh, let's give a quick shout out to Alberto in the house. And you got a question: Antonio Gibson or Miles Sanders, full PPR? The full PPR makes me think it's going to be Antonio Gibson. I'm looking. It's crazy, but he's catching passes, and and as I was just talking about a second ago, I mean, he got 3 passes for 31 yards last week, and he's going up against the defense that's just giving up yardage to the running back. And Miles Sanders is gonna, he's got a little bit more, but for some reason they're not giving him the full load. Jalen Hurts is stealing some carries from him, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. The Packers, sneakily, people are able to throw on him, but I'll talk about that one in a little bit. Let's go over to Seattle, where the Seahawks 6-4 host the Las Vegas Raiders. And by the way, on Deontay Foreman, I'm Adentro on him. The Las Vegas Raiders are, Seattle is 3.5 point favorites, 47.5 over under. It's a little bit of drizzle conditions possible. Temperatures in the low 40s. Dome team, the Raiders, Davante Adams. This is what he did last week to Patrick Surtain, one of the best cover corners. When they were locked up, this was a master level class that Davante Adams did in route running. He ended up with 4 catches on 5 targets, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns against that stud corner. When it comes to this season, Davante Adams, the Raiders may not be delivering. Davante is delivering. 64 catches on 112 targets, 925 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. I mean, the targets and the touchdowns lead the league. He's got 100 plus receiving yards in 5 of his last 7 games. One of those games, he only had 95 yards from me. And then the other game, he was returning from being sick. So I almost don't count that one. And honestly, when it comes to the Raiders, who else is Derek Carr going to throw to? There's no Hunter Renfrow. There's no Darren Waller. You're not starting Mac Hollins. Familia. It's Davante all day. He, for those that picked him in the back half of the first round, he's been a godsend. Him and Stephon Diggs have been great picks at that point. So Seattle, they're middling in the passing game. They're number 14 against wide receivers, allowing 225.5 yards per game passing. They held DeAndre Hopkins to 36 yards on 4 catches. No 100-yard receivers since Jerry Jeudy. Still, I love to say there are good in baseball. There are hitters who hit good pitching. In football, there are wide receivers who get it done against good coverage. Devontae Adams is one of them. Adentro. Let's go over to the Seahawks side. Kenneth Walker, and he was a clunker in his last game against Tampa. 10 rushing attempts, 17 yards, but he did get 8 targets. 8 targets. Turned them into 6 catches for 55 yards. Can we get back to where he was at that point? Las Vegas, they allowed 148 scrimmage yards to 3 Denver running backs. Jonathan Taylor went for 147 on 22 carries and a touchdown. Travis Etienne 28 carries, 109 yards in week 9. The Raiders are giving up 57.6 receiving yards to the running backs alone. That's the worst in the NFL. At 6,900 in DraftKings, I'm playing them, Familia. I am playing them. So let's go over to the desert where the Chargers 5-5 at the Cardinals 4-7. The Chargers are 3-point favorites, road favorites, 48.5 point over under. It's a dome game. Don't worry about weather. But one of the things we also don't have to worry that Josh Palmer doesn't have to worry about is playing behind Mike Williams. Mike Williams has already been declared out. Keenan Allen is the full-time guy, so Josh Palmer does not have to be the main guy when it comes to the. Let me see. I'm going to get to that question in a second, my man. Hey, Dame, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás, Dame? I will get to this question in a minute. All right. So first off, I'm gonna finish off of this one. Let's get this game in. Josh Palmer. So we not dealing with Keenan Allen. Not dealing with Mike Williams. Last week he ran 36 routes, which was most on the team on 38 pass snaps. 28 of those were for Allen. He ended up with 8 catches on 10 targets, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. His ADOT was 11.7. He had that 50-yard touchdown, which was a beautiful thing. Now, Gerald Everett is coming back, and you know what that means when it comes to Arizona. You're playing your tight ends against him. Is that going to eat into Josh Palmer a little bit? I'm squeaking by to give him an adentro, but because of the fact that Byron Murphy has been declared out, and what's happened with Arizona with Byron Murphy hobbled and then out, they've given up 13 touchdown passes in the last 5 games. So Familia, I'm looking at Palmer. I'm starting him, but you know what? I think he's going to lose some targets to Gerald Everett. I mean, we already know he's going to lose. That Keenan Allen's going to get his, but you know what? They both balled out last week, and Palmer did. But I like Palmer this week. So Kyler Murray is back. It looks like he's going to be back. He's been a full practice participant. He's coming off the hamstring. Will he run? In the past 2 seasons, when he's come back off of injuries, he has not run a lot. So I think he's not going to run that much. The Chargers are number 15 against the quarterbacks. Giving up 227 passing yards per game. Mahomes just took them apart for 329 and 3 touchdowns. The best of the other recent quarterbacks has been Geno Smith, 210 and 2 touchdowns. So I drafted Kyler Murray high a lot, but I may have to sit him on a couple teams. Definitely not sitting him in Superflex, but I'm going to be afuera on him this week. All right, so we got a question. Pick 2 wide receivers and 2 flex, half PPR. Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Olave, Keenan, James Conner, McLaurin. Okay, you're starting Olave, you're starting McLaurin, you're starting Higgins because it's looking like he's good. And so who's the next one? Keenan. I hate to sit Conner because Conner is going to be oh man. No, you know what? I think I'd start Conner because the Chargers are just not good against the running game. So Conner over Keenan. The rain is going to affect Mike Evans. So my man, I hope that helps you. I'd love to be able to say your name, but I don't know. Mi amigo Craig Reith. Happy Thanksgiving, my brother. Happy Thanksgiving, mi amigo. sending you a big hug, big warm hug, because I know what the weather's like out there right now. I know it's nice and chilly, but hey, that's good for hot toddies. All right, let's get back into the games. Okay, we got the Rams at Chiefs. The Chiefs are 8-2. The Rams, they're just they're limping to the finish line. KC is 15.5 point, 15.5 point favorites. It's a 42-point over under, so they're going to win a lot. They're expected to win by a lot, and KC's not expected to give up a lot of points. 45 degrees, not precipitation. Cam Akers, Familia. I'm afuera. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm afuera on him. We got Bryce Perkins likely to start at QB, which means it's going to be more of a running attack, and from the quarterback side. And the offensive line has been decimated. Brian Allen, the center, is going to be out for this game. They might be starting their 5th left tackle of the season, a rookie. He got 14 carries for 61 yards, that being Cam Akers. But I'm looking at this one. The game script is going to be the Rams are going to get taken out of this game, even though they have a good defense. They have a good defense, but it's going to be hard to stop Mahomes in Kansas City. The Chiefs are allowing, even though the Chiefs are allowing 93.8 rushing yards, I think what we're going to see is it's going to be split carries between Akers and Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams getting some catches. I'm afuera on him. All right, let's go over to the Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster. Looks like he's back. Missed the last game with the concussion. I was going to make this Isaiah Pacheco, but the Rams are giving up 67.5 rushing yards. They did lose A'Shawn Robinson, one of their aces in running defense, but I'm just looking at Juju right now. He has had fewer than 8 targets in one game where he started and finished the entire game, finished healthy, and that was in weeks 3 to 9. He had a high of 12 targets. The last 2 games, Chris Olave and DeAndre Hopkins and Rondale Moore, all 3 of them have done well against this Rams secondary. Mahomes is sharing the love, but when it comes to after Travis Kelce, Juju has been the main man. Adentro on him. All right, San Fran. 6-4 is hosting the 4-7 New Orleans Saints. The 49ers are 9.5-point favorites. Someone earlier, I think it was Trey earlier in the chat, talking about having CMC. So we're obvious on that one. So we're not going to go into that one. No rain in the forecast. 60-degree weather. Perfect football weather. It's going to be about it's a 43-point over under. Chris Olave. I mentioned it just now. You're starting him every week. He's beaten Byron Murphy when Byron Murphy was at his peak. He's the only one who beat the at that point the Cardinals for 106 yards. Last week he beat Jalen Ramsey on that long touchdown and ended up with 5 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown. This man has arrived. The only other threat that he's got for targets is Jarvis Landry. Olave is the dude. Hopkins went for 91 yards against the 49ers. Greg Dortch went for 103 yards last week. In week 8, Cooper Kupp took them for 8 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. The 49ers are giving up 44.7 fantasy points per game. That's number 32 in the league, and allowing 191.5 receiving yards to the wide receiver. Chris Olave, get him in your lineup, Familia. Adentro. George Kittle. Beautiful game last week. 24.4 fantasy points. He was the tight end 2 on the week. 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. His targets in the last 5 games: 10, 9, 5, 2, 6. A little inconsistent on some of them. And you know what? I think this is going to be a game where the 49ers are going to go away from him. New Orleans is number 2 against tight ends this season, giving up just 34.3 yards per game to the position. Tyler Higbee went for 45 yards last week. Pat Freiermuth, 36 yards. But you know what? Those are among the high games on that one. So I think what's going to happen in this one, it's going to be, now also keep in mind, Deebo Samuel is a little bit hobbled. So I'm expecting a good Brandon Ayuk game. The Saints may be getting Marshawn Lattimore back, but you know what? I don't know if that's I don't know if they're going to bring him back off of limited practices. I think this is potentially a good game for Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, and definitely a big game coming for Run CMC. So yeah, he's not going to have my Adidas, but we'll go from there. So let's move on to Sunday Night Football. Just 2 games left. Green Bay 4-7 at Philadelphia 9-1. We got Philadelphia 6.5-point favorites, 46.5. We got 54 degrees, possible light rain. A little rain could be coming down in Philly. So I don't, even in the rain, I don't know who's hotter than how many guys we could say have been hotter than Christian Watson. Come out of nowhere in the last 2 games, 4 catches, 107 yards, 3 touchdowns in week 10. Last week, 4 catches, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 8 on the week. Terry McLaurin is the only wide receiver to go over 100 yards against these Philadelphia Eagles, though, and he did it twice. So it's so nice he did it twice. But these Eagles, they are number 3 against they're number 3 in passing yards against at 192.2. Last week, Michael Pittman caught 6 balls for 75 yards. George Pickens, they shut him down, gave him a big donut. I'm telling you, it's been great so far for Christian Watson, but you know what? I'm afuera on him. Rams upset would be on par for this season. You know what? We'd be giving thanks for that. That would be the biggest upset since David against Goliath. Oh, that's a funny one. Thank you so much for that one, Dame. Love it. On the Eagles side, the Eagles, AJ Brown. Now I wanted to say Miles Sanders, but you know what? Even in games where they've had really good matchups for running backs, they haven't given them like the 15 to 20 carries. They've been giving them more to 10 to 15, and it looks like Hurts is taking some of the carries. That's why I was looking a little bit at how the Packers are doing against elite wide receivers, because I'm targeting AJ Brown for this game. Since his high of 6 catches, 156 yards, and 3 touchdowns in week 8, he hasn't gone over 60 yards. He's number 13 with 80 total targets. Now, this is the second game with no Dallas Goedert. And these are the wide receiver ones against Green Bay of late. In week 11, Treylon Burks, 7 catches for 111 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 11 catches, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was the game before. In week 8, Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. The Packers, they haven't been as formidable against opposing wide receivers. They're number 21. I'm not then throwing AJ Brown. All right, let's finish off Monday Night Football. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers 3-7 at the Indianapolis Colts 4-6-1. The Colts are 2.5-point favorites, 39 points. This is going to be a turtle race game. This game's going to be in the dome, so we're not worried about any weather. What I am worried about is a little bit Deontay Johnson. This is a man who was the wide receiver 18 in ADP before the season. He's the wide receiver 12 in 21, catching 107 balls for 1,161 yards and 8 touchdowns. These are his numbers pedestrian so far. 51 catches, 86 yards, 51 catches, 86 targets, 456 yards, zero touchdowns. He's the wide receiver 42 on the season. He's got 10 targets in the last 2 weeks. Pat Freiermuth has 19 targets during that span. And, combined, he's got 84 yards on 8 catches in the last 2 games. These Colts, they are number 3 against the wide receiver, giving up just a paltry 199.2 passing yards per game. At home, they're rough. They are a tough out when it comes at home, but tough on defense. Yeah, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith combined for 138 receiving yards. They are the only team to shut down Patrick Mahomes in that 20-17 victory in week 3, which game was also in Indianapolis, where he threw for kind of a pedestrian 262 yards and a touchdown. Deontay Johnson, the numbers aren't, it really looks like he's the number 3 target in that offense behind Freiermuth and George Pickens. I'm afuera on him. Last one, Familia. On the Colts side, Michael Pittman, 5 of his last 7 games, he's got 8+ targets. Last week, he had 7, but he turned them into 6 catches for 75 yards in a tough defensive matchup. His high was 13 catches for 134 yards in week 6. That was his last game over 100 yards. He's going to get 100 yards in this one. The Steelers are number 27 against wide receivers, giving up 274.5 passing yards per game. They're not going to be able to do it on the road. They being the Steelers. T. Higgins took them apart for 9 catches, 148 yards. AJ Brown, that 156-yard game. Michael Pittman is about to have himself a game, Familia. So he is adentro, and I'm on my way to being afuera. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much to everybody who's been watching. Again, I'm so thankful, so grateful to all of you for always chiming in and bringing great questions, and just for watching. It helps us grow. Let me see. Oh, we got a big one. The banged up Kamara and Aaron Jones now through slashing players and some clutch waiver wire moves. Alvin. Oh, that's Kevin Valentine. That's good. That's good. Nice. Nice. Okay, we got a question. We got one question before we get out of here. Should I trade Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams for Raheem Mostert and Dalvin Cook? No, don't do it. You know what? Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, they're going to remain big parts. Raheem Mostert is banged up right now, and Dalvin Cook is just one. I always worry about trading for Dalvin Cook because it's just a tough one because his shoulder could give way. Let me see. You're right. Aaron Jones does have a bye, but I mean, basically, you're trading the leader in touchdowns on the season, and Aaron Jones, who is a clear RB1, for Raheem Mostert, who's hurt, and Dalvin Cook, who's been really good. My man Sebastian, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it because I don't trust Raheem Mostert. I want you to get 2 good running backs out of this one. I know Jamal will be good, but no, it's a tough one, my man. Can't advise you against that one. So hopefully this helped everybody who's watching. This is going to be a great week 12. Good luck on your fantasy football races. Get the chip. Get to the playoffs. Again, we're going to I want to say thank you to fantasypoints.com. Make sure you're using that promo code 22familia10 or 22familia10 if you want to do it in Spanish. Go to fantasypoints.com, get your subscription, and please follow me at Jorge Martin 17. Also, if you're if you want to listen to this on the audio side, please subscribe. Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we'll be there for you. Again, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you tuning in, and remember, todos somos familia. Salud.